good Sunday morning, and thank you for watching Beyond the Headlines. Imagine this. It's November 5th, Election Day, and if you're a Laredo voter, the most consequential vote you might have to decide won't be for a candidate, but for a series of proposals that make change in the way Laredo is governed. Well, this November, Laredoans will not only vote for elected officials, but also for changes to the City of Laredo's charter. Well, the charter outlines the terms and rules for how city government works. And this past week, after hours of work done by the Charter Revision Commission, various proposals were discussed in a lengthy meeting. Although many were brought up, not all of them will be put up for a vote. Now, out of several proposals on the table, some were less contested. That included cementing language to ensure that council members live within the districts that they represent. However, more divisive proposals included granting the mayor the power to vote on city council matters, which ultimately was approved. But one proposal that failed was one requiring the mayor or council members to forfeit office in the case of a Class B misdemeanor or greater than that. And another measure that was shot down was a proposal to go from 8 city council districts to 4, with 2 members representing each district. One council member urged voters to get informed, while a member of the Charter Commission shares the idea behind the proposal.
Once the list is put out and we publish the final version of the proposal, that people pay attention to what these actually are, and you can actually write it all down on a piece of paper before you go into the voting booth to remind yourself how you want to vote, so you don't have to do all the thinking and once you're in the booth. You can plan in advance.
Giving the mayor power to vote would take the symbolic power he already has and turn it into actual power. It's a good thing. It's necessary. And a lot of other cities in the state of Texas practice this. This is a holdover from the old days. And, well, Laredo's a new city.
Well, 7 proposals were approved for the November ballot, and that's where we begin this morning's discussion. And of course, here with us again this Sunday morning, we've got Sergio Mora, the former Democratic chair here in Webb County, and of course, Luis Villarreal, our general manager here at KGNS. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning.
Yeah, so what do y'all think about the city charter? You know, there were so many more that the commission had been working on, but at the end of the day, the council members, the present council members, are the ones that will decide which ones will go onto the ballot and which ones don't. So, you know, they ultimately have the say-so on what we all get to vote on.
I think some of them are long overdue. I think the mayor's ability to vote is an important one.
Yeah.
I think that could, you know, help some of the issues that arise when there are cliques that move one way or the other.
Because he'll be the tie vote in many cases if it's 4-4.
Yes. Well, right now he has the tie-breaking vote if it's 4-4.
True.
But at the same time, I mean, I think that it's long overdue also because you have the council members answer to the voters just of their district, and they look out for the interests
of their district,
predominantly of their district. There's no one charged. There's no municipal elected official charged with overseeing the interests of the
overall, the big picture.
The big picture, and he's elected by the citizens at large. But then they didn't have a vote, you know, and I think that this is long overdue. And also with the balance of power in city council, I think that a voice like the mayor, someone that has the interest of everybody in mind, I think it's a no-brainer.
There's another one that addresses the veto and the overriding of a veto. That I think it's also important because if it passes, then the ability to override a mayor's veto would have to be done by a supermajority, not just a simple majority of the council. Basically, if something passed at 5-3, and the mayor, in our current situation, the mayor vetoes it, then all it takes is, again, the 5-3 to go back and do it.
Right.
What I find interesting and a little funny or a bit of a comedy is how the support or lack of support in some of these measures changes from some of these council members based on what their future holds.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny how somebody who may be running for mayor now supports previous changes that before you weren't supporting. So it's like, you know, it's all about.
Well, I mean,
it's all about what's best for themselves.
For themselves.
Well, I think that whole deal that you can't serve if you have a misdemeanor or higher, I think that they have somebody in mind who they don't want to be serving in there.
But that is not going to make it to the ballot.
That's not going to make it to the ballot.
Which, you know, I don't understand the reasoning behind it. I mean, how do you defend not putting that on the ballot? I mean, I don't understand. I mean,
yeah,
you
it's
guys,
like you're condoning bad behavior.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
so what is the argument for not putting it on the ballot?
I mean, they probably wanted
that a misdemeanor is not that big of a deal.
Not that big of a deal. Maybe like a felony. You know what I mean? I mean,
so
I don't know their thinking.
But is a felony something that would automatically get you kicked off council?
I would hope so. I would hope so. Yeah.
Conviction, not an accusation.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Yeah. What did y'all think about the one about the city manager? You know, where it's got to be a super vote now to get
remove the city manager.
The city manager. You know, maybe hopefully we'll have a little bit more. I don't know.
So
stability.
listen, I think we've all been around long enough to know that I think there's some merit to it. I think what we're trying to do is make it harder for these cliques to get together. I mean, in the past, all you had to do was convince 3 other people, and you pretty much could do anything you wanted, including removing the city manager.
And you have the city manager under threat. Like if there's a clique that has the votes, they have the city manager under threat.
Yeah.
You
so
do
you're
what
always
we want,
walking,
or you're
always walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but at the same time, like if you get a bad one in there, and then make it hard to remove, then
well,
that's
but if you have a bad one, then you should be able to get a supermajority or
that's true. You're
the
right.
council to agree with that. I mean, so I don't. Again, you know, some things may be a little more complicated than they seem, but it seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, it's like, okay, so both for good or bad, the reality is that we've had what, 9 city managers in the past 15 years or whatever it is. I mean, and you know, how do you promote stability? You know, one of the things that I've complained about for a long time is that managers change, but the bureaucracy underneath them doesn't.
Of course.
And that doesn't because the bureaucracy underneath the managers know that they have less to lose than the manager itself. And so the manager doesn't have the ability the city manager has not had the ability to properly affect the department heads and the structure underneath him because they are under threat. And so I think this would give the city manager, whomever he or she is, more freedom to perform,
more independent,
to run the city. They don't govern. They run the city as operations. And so I think it's a good thing. My worry is that the ballot in November is going to be so long that I wonder if people are going to pay attention to this. And how are these propositions? I have not seen this. How are they worded? Because some of them can be very confusing in the way they are worded.
I think that is for sure when they did, for example, that deal where they lowered the threshold for city council members to be recalled, where they made it the number of people registered to vote as opposed to number of people that actually voted. They snuck that in there, and like you're saying, it was a long ballot. There was like 20 propositions. They're all worded very legally, elaborately.
A lot of double negatives and triple positives.
And if you put, you word it in such a way that it makes sense. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then you just gave away the farm in terms of you just trashed your own democracy, you know?
Yeah.
I hope that makes it on the ballot. I hope that they reverse that makes it a little bit easier to recall city council members. Obviously, city council members don't want to go for that. But at the same time, like I hope that the city and I don't know if there's interests that are going to be involved in actually campaigning for this, like moving Laredo forward when they try to get more at-large members. They did a big campaign. There was billboards. I remember it says, vote yes on propositions 1 through 8 or something like that. Yeah. I think that's what would be needed to do in not only in this case and in any case.
Yeah, because just to educate and educate well.
People aren't going to be thinking about these propositions when they're going to go in to vote Kamala.
Yeah, with the big
Biden,
presidential race. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, exactly. Biden is not on the ballot.
Sorry. Biden moment.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. So, you know, hopefully between now and November, we'll have a lot more discussion as we approach voting day. So we'll continue talking about this issue, definitely. Well, as we continue on this Sunday morning, what could be the biggest story of the year? Well, President Biden drops out of the presidential race, and you shared some thoughts about it. We hear from our viewers and local officials about hitting the reset button on a new race and a new candidate. Stay with us. Well, one letter, one post, and one Sunday afternoon later marked the beginning of a new race following President Joe Biden's official withdrawal from the presidential race. So what did our viewers think of the president's decision? Well, local reaction varied. Many KGNS viewers took to our poll and expressed that Biden's decision does not impact their vote. Some continue to strongly support former President Donald Trump, while others are embracing the change at the top of the ticket. Laredo Mayor Dr. Victor Trevino, who met with Biden several times in the past 2 years, praised the president's decision to step down, saying he admires the president not putting his personal needs first. As for local political leaders, Webb County Democratic Chair Sylvia Bruni is rallying behind Vice President Kamala Harris and believes she will energize the party. On the Republican side, Webb County Republican Chair Jose Salazar is warning against overconfidence.
Going to bring a lot of energy. Of course, she comes in as a woman, and so I think she's going to attract the support, strengthen the support of various constituencies that already were on our side, but I think now even more so minorities.
Republicans cannot be overconfident. I think that's very, very important because President Trump can still lose. I think it's going to be a tight race regardless. It's going to be a tight race. It depends on who comes out to vote, who comes out to volunteer, who comes out to help. So Republicans need to show up, need to go vote.
That's where we continue this week's discussion once again with Sergio and Luis. So was that not a bombshell last Sunday? Where were you when you heard that announcement?
Well, the two of you had it right. I had it wrong, right?
No, both of you had it wrong. I had it right. I'm sorry to say.
We both said...
We both said that he was not going to drop.
Oh, you too?
I said it too.
I thought I was the only one.
Yeah, no. So I think we...
Hats off to you, sir.
Like 20 bucks
but obviously that's because you're in the inner workings of this anti-democratic Democratic Party that decided to do this without letting the people without letting the people vote. So they knew real well that we're going to do this. They didn't want a primary. They didn't want to go through that process. So they waited until the last minute and took the power away from the voters and put in who they wanted.
I know
that's just
I know that's what,
obvious.
No, I know that's what Fox News is saying.
Yeah.
But
I think that Biden I just think that he just couldn't go against his party anymore. There were so many that were just jumping on the bandwagon. And I think I've even heard some conspiracy theorists say that COVID was not in fact true and that he just needed to take the weekend to really think about what he needed to do. That's what I've heard in the makings.
But the thing is, the fact of the matter is that they saw the polling after the debate, and that takes a little while to show up.
Yeah.
And they saw there was no clear path to victory with Biden. He was taking a hit, especially. I mean, if you take the calculations of the Electoral College, if you
won the popular vote,
if you take the calculations of the very important battleground states, which are the states that are a toss-up, that it's not like California where the Democrats are going to win, it's not like Texas where the Republicans are going to win.
Right.
Like, it's this handful of states that are the most important where the election plays out, and he wasn't doing too well.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was also a lot of frustration and anger in terms of from the actual Democrats who want to win. And there was also a lot of frustration and concern from, and a lot of people forget the down ballot races. I mean, people running for Congress, people running for the State House, people running for Senate, they all depend on a strong top of the ticket. And if you have a guy that's just going to get trounced at the top of the ticket
that doesn't
bode well. It's gonna trickle down to Democrats all across the board.
So what are y'all thinking about the matchup between Trump and Harris now? Do you think that you just said right now a strong top of the ticket? Do you all feel she's strong enough?
I think Trump is in trouble for a couple of reasons. And even though I don't think that Vice President Harris's record helps her or not, I don't think that's an issue here. I think removing President Biden from the ballot and putting Vice President Harris makes it really hard for Trump to be himself. And I think he's going to turn off a lot more people now than he used to as he attacks.
And he immediately did. I mean, all of a sudden he said she's been the worst vice president ever. He had never even attacked her before.
Well, but that's, okay, that in itself is not bad. Is the personal attacks, the ridiculing that he's bound to make, you know, because I think that's where he gets off center, is that he starts attacking personalities, he starts attacking family, he starts attacking those things. And I think that the average American voter is going to get more turned off. So I don't think this is a good thing. For Trump, I think that is going to make it harder. Unfortunately, I fear more for a former President Trump's losing the election than I fear more for him winning it as we go forward.
Because of repercussions that might happen?
Yes, I honestly, I've always believed that.
Like in terms of the political violence that will erupt?
I think that it would be easier for us to handle 4 more years of Trump and then be done with him than 4 more years of this 8-year down thing that we're going.
The thing is that you say 4 more years of Trump. I mean, if recent history is any indication, he's not going to want to stop at those 4 more years. And now with the Supreme Court in the back,
do you have no trust in your institution?
Not the Supreme Court anymore.
Do you think that if this? Do you think this can happen in Mexico?
Completely.
Okay.
Well, no.
You think that Mexico?
Well, that's just the thing. In that,
and do you not trust our
institutions,
our democracy to be able to withstand this? You don't think that we see? Here's the problem. You talk about Project 2025 that has nothing to do with him putting anything together. It's a group of other people talking about what they want him to do.
Well, and
but the narrative is that it's Trump's plan.
Let's stop right there, because you nailed it on the head in that he wants to be president. He wants the power. He really doesn't care a lot about governing, and he'll cut deals with whoever he thinks is going to get him there. And that's how he cut deals with the Federalist Society, saying, you conservatives support me and I'll let you pick Supreme Court justices, and now abortion is banned nationwide.
The problem that I have, once again, with what you're saying and what Mr. Salazar, who we had here last week, is that you guys insist on making the other party and the other candidate the rival, which is removing our ability to question government as a whole.
Yeah.
And when we lose the ability to question our leadership, whether they're right, left, blue, red, pink, or whatever they may be, and the political party institution in this country is laughing their way to the bank, because all we're doing is fighting amongst each other, whether we're red or blue, and we are not paying attention to the real problems. Because once you think about it, if you remove the nastiness of Trump, okay, because he's a nasty man, that there's no denying that he's a nasty, he's a bully, he's all these things. When you remove all that and you put him against the niceness of Biden or the freshness of Vice President Harris, at the end of the day, the things that are different policy-wise between them are this big. The things that matter to you. You've been a citizen of the United States for the better time of, for the entire life.
Yeah. You're already wanting me deported.
No, I don't want you deported. But, you know, how different is your life because Clinton was in office, because Obama was in office, because Bush was in office, because Biden's in office? Our lives don't change that much based on. No, wait a second, let me finish. They don't change that much. We're not affected that much by that individual. We are affected by the overall power of government, by the power of the pharmaceutical industry, by the power of the food, drug industry. Yeah. All those things are the things that matter. But here we are fighting about, you know.
Look.
Stupid things.
Donald Trump, when he lost the election, I mean, people think, oh, he tried to overturn the election. They cite January 6th. No, the effort to overturn the election was a lot bigger than January 6th, and it involved a lot of legal maneuvering. It involved state legislators. It involved all this scheming. There was like the guy really wanted to stay with the president.
And let me ask
and
you
the thing
guys,
is, it didn't happen in the U.S., but this kind of thing happens all over the world. In fact, it's more common than not. The thing is that we have someone in the U.S. that wants to make this an authoritarian
If you take away my power to do the same thing, to him as I would do it to another person, you're taking the power of me because you're making me focus on this issue that the other person exemplifies the end of the world as we know it, and that is not true.
End of democracy.
It is not true, Sergio.
Dude, okay,
it is not
how is it
true.
not true if a guy loses election and says, "I'm going to do everything I can to stay in office," and all my supporters, they are going to violently interfere with a peaceful transfer of power? That in itself, it's like, okay,
and you wonder why people want to kill people.
No,
because you keep telling me that the end of the world is coming, so I'm going to defend it.
The thing is, these institutions that prevented Trump from getting away with it is what makes America great, is why all those immigrants come to this country. And that is
our
why
ability to choose
if any presidential candidate
that is
tries to stay
and it's not going to
try to overturn the election,
it's not going to end whether he wins or loses.
Okay.
No,
we need a little time out here. We need a little time out here. I wanted to ask about the resolution about Kamala, what y'all thought about that. I think we can quick
about the border
opinions
thing, but she hasn't been to Europe, so it doesn't matter. She's never been to the border.
There's a big misconception about that, and the Republicans are attacking Kamala Harris's efforts on the border. She was never appointed border czar.
Oh my gosh!
Stop!
My gosh!
She was appointed to deal with the Northern Triangle, Central American countries to address the root causes of migration, and she got over $5 billion of investment in Central America from American businesses so that migrants don't leave in the first place. She had never anything to do with the actual Mexican-American border itself. That's the Department of Homeland Security. It wasn't Kamala Harris.
That was never said. That was what you just said.
I don't
whether
remember
true or
hearing
not
that.
whether true or not, what you just said.
Borders are.
She
Whatever
was
you
never
just said.
appointed border czar.
Whatever you just said was never an issue until today. Because
nobody
ever defended
because she had signing a resolution attacking Kamala Harris' efforts on the border,
including Congressman Cuellar.
We are going to have to go to a break right now. I am so sorry. This is where we leave it, but we will be right back. We promise no more punching. It is time to find out what everybody's one thing is. What was that one burning thing that you can't stop thinking about from this past week? Sergio?
I finished a great book, or my book of the month selection, and it talks about the last time a group of crazy right-wingers tried to destroy our democracy, talking about the Civil War. And it's called The Demon of Unrest by Eric Larson, a very popular author who wrote The Devil in the White City. And it talks about the opening stages of the Civil War. And that picture is of Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, where the Union forces were attacked by the South in the opening salvos of the Civil War. And this author just writes like a thriller fiction writer, but it's actually all true.
Wow.
So if you want a good like thriller kind of book that's historical about a very interesting topic, I recommend you pick up the copy.
I want to talk about the end of the world and talk about how things will never be the same.
Yeah, the Civil War, it was just a little blip.
We have had a couple of situations in the last couple of weeks where technology has disrupted our lives. Like we had that blue screen from death that affected everybody. 2 weeks ago? The CrowdStrike thing, and how it halted,
froze
everything, and Delta Airlines has just now recovered in the last couple of days. But we also had an issue with Spectrum, Texas-wide thing for 6 hours. Anyway, we are at the mercy of these things.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are, definitely. So my one thing is talking about one of our own here at KGNS.
Finally, something good.
We are so proud of Ms. Marcelita. We call her Marcelita, but it's Marcela Delgado. She is representing Miss Tamaulipas in the Miss Mexico Universe pageant. So we just are so proud of her. She's our colleague here at KGNS. She's our Hola spokesperson, and we just want to wish her the very best. I believe the Miss Mexico pageant is on my birthday, September the 7th. So it's in Cancun. So good luck to Marcela. We are rooting for you.
We're all going to
definitely
support her.
Yes, I think KGNS needs to pay for all of us to go to Cancun so we can all cheer for her. Yeah, absolutely. That's all the time we have on this Sunday for Beyond the Headlines. Make sure to tune in next Sunday for another very spirited conversation. Have a fantastic day.